The college basketball experience, West Coast Conference, a.k.a. the WCC 24-25 season preview edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with our promo code TCESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. That is the Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and NFL today. Get your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. Welcome, everybody, into the college basketball experience WCC edition, our 28th conference preview, which means we're nearing the end. Less than 1 week till opening night in college basketball. All is right in the world. Can't wait to talk about it. Zags, St. Mary's got some new additions. Rank them 1 through 11. We'll give out our sleeper. We'll give out our bust and all this good stuff. But first off, introductions. I am Moneyline Mac, aka the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. And also known as Mac Tonight over here at the College Experience. And joining me to talk WCC hoops, well, you guys know this guy because he is the window banging, drywall hanging, LeBaron driving, cocktail napkin having, Noah Bieniek, a.k.a. Noah B77. 1 day closer, my friend.
1 day closer is correct. West Coast Conference preview here tonight on the College Basketball Experience. Last year, St. Mary's won the regular season. 15-1. Just that one loss to Gonzaga during the year. Gonzaga went 14-2, finished second. St. Mary's won the conference tournament. Both teams received 5 seeds in the NCAA tournament. St. Mary's, they dropped that opener to Grand Canyon. They lost by 9. Honestly, Grand Canyon was a really solid team last year. Gonzaga, once again, another Sweet 16 program keeps chugging along under Mark Few. This year, there's going to be some added interest, I guess, into the WCC this year with the new programs in Oregon State and Washington State into the WCC. I don't know if either one can challenge Gonzaga or St. Mary's for the top spots in the conference, but I do think that these two programs are going to add some intrigue in that middle pack that always beats each other up in this conference. Last year, there was a 3-way tie for 6th, which was also known as like second to last. So it's just really tight in the middle. And I'm pretty excited to talk about it with you. So anything else that you want to add in from what we experienced last year in the WCC?
So Gonzaga doesn't win the regular season title for the first time in 12 years. And I think Colby, were you on that one?
I didn't go back and watch the show.
I know Colby and I had St. Mary's, and they called us fucking crazy. So
I think it was just you two on that show. Now that I remember,
okay. Yeah, we had St. Mary's, but it was because Gonzaga had all these new faces. Gonzaga has as good and quality production as anybody coming back. Gonzaga was right there not to make the tournament until about February 1st. When they went to Rupp Arena on that random non-con Saturday and then got it done there and then kind of got their resume solidified. And then from there, they basically won out until the WCC conference title game, got to a Sweet 16. Honestly, was right there with Purdue till about midway through the second half. So they bring back a lot. I think they're top 5, top 10 team this year once again.
Okay.
But dude, the quality of this league, I think San Fran's been a good program. Santa Clara, I know you're high on. I think
Yep.
Wazoo's a good addition, even with the coaching change. Even
Yep.
Oregon State, man. I mean, Oregon State still was a high major program that went to an Elite Eight. So I think the WCC definitely trending upward.
For sure. Until they lose Gonzaga in 2 years. So enjoy it while it lasts.
Good point. Yeah. It's weird because
it's bittersweet.
They have Oregon State and Wazoo.
Yeah.
But then they go back to the Pac-12 and they bring Gonzaga with them.
What I will say, though, is that I think a lot of the players and coaches that will be in the WCC will enjoy a fresh WCC without a high major program, like a power program in the conference. That just
like a San Fran.
No chance. Every single year, you know who's winning the conference, and there's a staggered tournament with bye systems that is favoring that power program. It's an uphill climb for you to even get into the NCAA tournament. Now, if you actually have a solid year, you could get a 2 seed, maybe even beat St. Mary's in the regular season, and you can get that triple bye in the WCC tournament. I know some coaches are excited for that. I bet. So yeah, it's bittersweet for sure. Losing the team that's made you so much money by going to Sweet 16s each and every single season with Gonzaga. But yeah, let's talk about them because they're the first team alphabetically for us here. Last year 27-8. They struggled early, and for a lot of the same reasons that Mac mentioned just there. They finished 14-2 in conference, but that was good for only second in the West Coast Conference last season. They returned 81.5% of their minutes and are the most experienced, most talented roster in the WCC, according to BartTorvik.com. And that, of course, parlayed with their program pedigree, is going to land the Zags as the hands-down preseason favorite in the league. I don't think either one of us are going to question that this season, but they're also being, kind of promoted as one of the top teams in the country this year. The one starter that the Bulldogs lost was their best player from last season, in my opinion, on both sides of the floor, and Anton Watson. Coming back from Mark Few's squad, though, is the younger brother of Andrew, Ryan McIntyre, at the point, who had nearly 7 dimes per game, 12.5 points, 4 boards on 44.5% shooting from the field last season. Alongside him is Nolan Hickman, who put up 14 points per game and shot at 47% from the floor, 41.3% from deep. Graham Ike is the other big returning piece, and he's their 6'9" big man who put up 16.5 points, 7.5 boards per game last season. Gonzaga added Khalif Battle from Arkansas in the transfer portal to add a shot creation element to this offense that they didn't really have last year. That was kind of like the one hole that everybody kept pointing out with that roster. Whether you want to speculate on Battle's locker room impact or not, Battle can just go and get you one late in the shot clock. And also Michael Ajayi comes in from Pepperdine, attempting to fill that same role. So I think they attempted to, kind of patch the one leaky spot they have with this roster. One side note is, again, transfer portal addition from last year. Steele Venters will unfortunately miss another season after suffering an Achilles injury this summer, and he missed last year due to a torn ACL. So just super, super bad luck for him. Mac, give us your thoughts on this roster building job by Mark Few. He did all of this during the offseason when he was coaching Team USA in the Olympics, nonetheless.
A well-oiled machine, and sometimes the best additions are the ones that you keep. So bringing back the backcourt that I like, Nembhard and Hickman, and then adding Ajayi. So you have a 3-headed little guard system here that I like. And I think Nembhard's just going to get better and better another year in the system. Obviously, his brother had success there, who's playing for the Pacers now. And then I like the way Ike came on late in the year. And then Greg, who's going to be the talented sophomore now. He's going to be actually a senior. For some reason, I guess he just had not played as much early in his career, but a 6'10" guy that I think is going to take a step here with with Watson leaving the program. So I do like the Zags a lot. I mentioned it. I think that they're a top 10 team easily. A battle. I don't think that it's nice that you have to rely on him. You can bring him off the bench and be what he needs to be, and that's a score. And sometimes when you take opportunities or chances on guys that have had a little bit of a track record of not success, I think. Yeah. You know what I'm trying to say. I think when you got a good culture, you're able to blend those guys in. And Mark Few has a good culture. So Mark Few, future Hall of Famer. Dude, I think this is a team that can win in March this year with all this experience.
And Hasty's saying that Braden Huff's great. I mean, they also have Dusty Stromer coming off the bench once again this year. And like I said, one of Michael Ajayi or Cleve Battle are going to start. The other one's going to be off the bench. They're 8 deep. They're really good, very talented, the most talented team. We're not questioning that. But, Mac, I've heard some people be as bold as saying Gonzaga is the second best team in the country. I haven't formed my complete rankings quite yet here, so I'm going to be very loose with this statement. I'm more calling this team like a top 15 team nationally this season until I actually form those rankings. You're saying top 10, kind of convinced me to feel a little bit more comfortable with just a loose statement that they're top 10.
I have them 6. So I have them right there in the top 5. But you look, anytime you got that much production coming back from a team that you look at it, basically after that Santa Clara game, ran through the table, and they didn't just run to the table. They won every game by double digits outside of the Kentucky game, which they won on the road. So I have them 6th in my preseason rankings.
Any thoughts to Tomcats YouTube comment here? Gonzaga is going to continue to disappoint regardless of the conference that they are in. I'm assuming this is like when it comes to March results, and a factor of that being that they don't play the greatest competition from January to March, and they have to pick it right back up in the national scene in March.
I mean, is it really disappointment? They've been in the second weekend or better every year since 2014. So, like, define success. All right, they haven't won the national championship, but last year, Sweet 16, year before that, Elite 8, they had Sweet 16. The COVID year, they were undefeated, lost to Baylor, who was a juggernaut. Year before that, Elite 8, Sweet 16, another runner-up where they were right there to beat North Carolina in the championship. I think that was the old Gonzaga narrative. I would just say that he hasn't won the national championship. That would be the one knock. But I mean, how many times do I say it on the show where you just you make sure you're good enough and you keep swinging at this thing, you're eventually going to break through. Just ask Noah. He was a Michigan football fan. Harbaugh was always coming up just short, and then finally they broke it down. So I think the Zags will win one before Few retires. Me personally, I hope it happens at least.
Do you think he dips when he gets it?
Probably. He doesn't really seem like a big portal guy. I mean, he's what, 6? He's only 61, man. I thought he was older than that. That's not that old.
Is he not a big portal guy? He went out and got a couple of necessary pieces this season.
He's an older school guy, but I mean, hey, he's adapting. He doesn't want to perish. He's 7-16 and 143. So I mean, true legend. I mean, if you're starting a college coaches like rankings list, he's definitely in your top 5, top 10.
While we have all the TMZ fans here listening to the Gonzaga team preview, and then they're just going to click off the show right after this, do us one more favor prior to you doing that. Leave us a like, hit subscribe. We're only like 40 subscribers away from 12K on opening tip. That's been our goal the entire off season. So close there. So go over there, help us out, because it helps us with the algorithm getting us out there prior to opening tip when we do go live for opening night and every single night during the regular season, as we've done for how many years in a row now. But every single night, every single game on the money line and against the spread. Leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify as well. Leave us a like, rating, review, subscribe wherever you're listening on podcast platforms, because only you guys can help us prevent corporate gambling from taking over. And Underdog Fantasy supports us. We're asking you guys to go over there and have some fun, because their pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all sports: NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, the NBA, NHL, NASCAR, and so much more. And college basketball is right around the corner, and they're going to have plenty of player projections when the season tips off. Boosttober is upon us, which means that you're getting a spooky amount of profit boosts and so much more. You can now use these specials and boosts on all flexed entries. Sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick, plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. And we're back here on the college basketball experience, previewing the WCC basketball conference for the 2024-25 season. Mac, next up for us in alphabetical order is the Loyola Marymount Lions. 12-19 overall last season, 5-11 in conference, tied for 6th in the WCC. Like I said, it was a 3-way tie for 6th, which means that it was technically second to last year. Loyola Marymount this season is going to be one of the older teams, a 7-man rotation of all upperclassmen. Mac, I'm asking you, like, we can be honest about this team without Colby here, right? LMU's been a little bit of a boomerang program lately, haven't they? And Kelly LePepe is no longer on this roster, unfortunately. He's out of eligibility. But 4 years under Stan Johnson, good year, bad year, good year, bad year, right?
Yeah.
So
should be a good year.
Poised for a good year, right? Any thoughts on, Stan Johnson, more of like an offensive mind, and that kind of is displayed by, he's had 2 top 100 offenses in 4 years at LMU, but the defense has kind of just been relatively poor. Do you have any insight there?
I think he's an all right coach. I would probably put him in the middle of the pack in this league. The biggest thing for him is probably that knock on the lack of consistency. I would like to see him kind of stay in that top 5 range year in and year out. But he's gone 3rd, 9th, 4th, 6th. So it's been a little bit up and down. Maybe they're better without LePepe. We love LePepe, but they were so banged up last year. So I like this program to take a little bit of a step forward this year. Probably got them in the middle of the pack of this league with their experience coming back with the additions of Wazoo and Oregon State.
Yeah, so the Lions do lose 5 guys that played 21 minutes or more from last year. Dominic Harris, a redshirt senior, transfers out. He played 28.5 minutes, 14.5 points, 3 boards. Kelly LePepe, our king, prison strength, as Hasty's saying, rip prison strength in the chat. He's out of eligibility, played 28.5 minutes last season as well, 10 points per game, 5 boards. Justice Hill played 29 minutes, 11 points per game, 4 assists, 2 boards per game. Justin Wright played 26.5 minutes, 11 points, 3.5 boards, 2 assists. You also had Michael Graham and Noah Tates hit the transfer portal. Coming in, I think Stan Johnson did an all right job just trying to acquire some talent. MJ Amy comes in after being the starting point guard for San Jose State last season. 33 minutes, 15.5 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 1.5 steals per game. Shot at 36% from 3. I think he's going to be a solid point guard for LMU this season. Probably one of their better offensive pieces here. They also bring in from in-conference Pepperdine. So shots fired from Colby's soundboard as well here. A 6'11 junior forward, Javon Porter. 31.5 minutes per game, 16 points per game, 6 boards, 1.5 assists. And then Utah Valley transfers, Caleb Stone Carrawell, a 6'7", sixth-year senior. Played 27.5 minutes last season, 11.5 points, 3.5 boards, 1.5 assists. Jan Vide and Matar Diop are two power conference transfer gambles. Last year as freshmen, they didn't play too much, but they didn't really even give their programs too much of a chance to let them develop. They just dip out looking for a little bit of a bigger role at LMU. Jan Vide from UCLA, Matar Diop from Nebraska. I think those are, well accounted for gambles by Stan Johnson. And this team, like I said, is pretty old. With the Washington State edition, I have Loyola Marymount 6th. I think that ceiling is 5th, to be quite honest. So, Mac, your thoughts on LMU, their outlook for this year?
Yeah, they're going to be old, and that's basically where I have them slotted too. I can't see them cracking that top 4. I don't think they have the guards in order to do so. So I think Stan Johnson going to be more so in the middle of the pack, kind of evening out where he has been in the first 4 years, heading into year 5.
Yeah, next up for us alphabetically is the Oregon State Beavers, my Beavs, my beloved Beavs.
Tink.
Tink. That's the UTEP thing, but still the same tinkle. Only one starter for the Beavs return from a 13-19 year, 5-15 in the Pac-12. They finished 12th, aka last. You could look at it and say, hey, one starter returning from that season. It might not be the worst thing ever, but I also think that like taking a step down in conference and competition, they might have been able to do some damage, but they lose 8 players to the portal out of Corvallis because of the drop in, I guess, caliber of conference. And it resulted in it kind of created some depth issues, I think, for Wayne Tinkle this season. I don't know if he did a great enough job or a good enough job replacing some of the losses through the portal. Jordan Pope, 17.5 points per game, 3.5 assists, 2.5 rebounds per game. He transferred out alongside Tyler Bilodeau, who put up 14 points per game, 5.5 boards. Dexter Akano, 11 points per game, 3 boards. Alongside Casey Abekwe, Chol Mario, Dexter Akano. I already said Dexter Akano, but Jaden Stevens, Christian Wright, Justin Rochellen, 8 guys portaled out. Incoming, like I said, I don't think he did a good enough job. Just adding talent to have some depth this season. They're going to be a really young roster. DeMarco Minor comes in from SIU Edwardsville. He's probably going to be the point guard this season. He's a 6-foot senior, 33.5 minutes last season with SIUE. 15.5 points, 8.5 boards as a 6-foot guard is really good. 3 assists, over a steal per game. Also, they bring in the 35th ranked junior college transfer recruit in Nate Kings, 16.5 points per game, 5.5 boards, 2 assists with Southern Idaho. That was 2 years ago. He had a torn ACL last season. They're expecting a freshman to make a huge, contribution of this year's team's success, and Jaquavius Williford. They also have Parsa Fala transferring in from Southern Utah. He put up 13 points per game, 6 boards, 1.5 assists for the Thunderbirds last season. Matthew Marsh is a 7-1 kind of beanpole for he comes in from Wake Forest, didn't play a whole lot last year. And then from Cloud County Community College, Gavin Mars, Isaiah Sy transfers into Corvallis. Mac, like I said, I'm not too high on the collection of talent here in Corvallis. I want to be, but I think they're going to be able to win more conference games now that they're in the WCC. But overall, I think they're in the bottom half of the league still.
Yeah, how can you make an accurate read on this team? I will say though, Tinkle at the Big Sky is not the WCC, so don't compare the two. But Tinkle was really good in the Big Sky at Montana, so it'll be interesting to see them kind of taking a step back here. Talk about a program that just did not capitalize off an Elite Eight appearance. The next year they went 3-28, and then 11-21, 13-19. So since then, they have only won 27 ball games in 3 years. That's not the recipe for success. I kind of have them in that middle. I think them and Marymount are kind of similar, to be honest. I just think there's so much unknown with the portal class, but I will say in 2021, when they had all those new faces, they went to the Elite Eight. So maybe this is a random good Oregon State team that surprises everybody.
My fingers are crossed. I'm hoping for the best.
I hope they win.
I don't think they get everybody's sympathy vote anymore after poaching Gonzaga, but yeah, Oregon State, Washington State, I'm hoping that they have successful years in these kind of bridge seasons until they're forming the Pac-12 once again. Next up for us in the WCC is Pacific. Rough year last year. 6-26 overall, 0-16, which was last in the WCC. So they move on. They have a new era, new head coach coming in, Dave Smart. He comes to Pacific after being an assistant last season for Texas Tech. He was previously the head coach at Carleton University in Canada for over 18 seasons. At Carleton, Smart racked up a 591 win, 48 loss record, 13 national championships, 11 conference championships, 10 coach of the year recognitions. Mac, Dave Smart was a pretty smart hire for Pacific, eh?
Yeah, and then getting him. So not only, like you said, his track record of winning in Canada at Carleton, but also working with McCaslin for this last year. So nice little combo of head coaching experience, then working with the guy that's won wherever he's been. Yeah, I think Pacific hit a home run with this hire. I mean, they couldn't have done better than Smart.
Ryan Hasty says Smart is a god. Carleton does not lose up here. Of course, our resident Canadian friend. And
how's he going to get them down to Cali, though? That's the question.
As Hasty also mentions, he's reunited a former Texas Tech backcourt here through the transfer portal. You know, entire team basically gets wiped. There's one returner in Burke Smith who only played 11 and a half minutes last season. So we're only going to mention
roster.
Yeah. So we're only going to mention the incomers here. Danye May expected to be the point guard. He comes in from 34-3 Connors State, went to the Final Four in the JUCO ranks, 12 points per game, 4 boards, 6 assists. Lamar Washington comes in from the Red Raiders, played 9 minutes a game last season. He's a 6'4 junior guard. Elijah Fisher comes in from DePaul last season, 32 minutes per game, 10 points, 4 boards, 1.5 assists, shot at 52% from the field. Elias Ralph, he comes in from University of Victoria, which is another one of those Canadian universities. He's a 6'7 senior forward, played 27.5 minutes, 16 points per game, 8 boards, 1.5 assists, 1 steal per game, 1 block per game. Shot at 40.5% from 3-point range. Jazz Gardner, a 7-foot sophomore, comes in from Nevada. He's super intriguing. Jefferson Coulibaly transfers in from SMU. He didn't play last season, but this is a 6'3 junior guard that adds some depth from, the American, which is an all-right conference. Petar Krivokapic transfers in from Florida International, played 19.5 minutes for the Fighting Pit Bulls, 7 points per game, 1.5 boards. And then Chris Canis comes in from Minnesota, one of those patented Minnesota big men defects. He's a 6'8 sophomore. He only played 4 minutes his freshman year. I'm willing to, see that one out. Andrew McKenna transfers in from Brock University in Canada as well. Played 18 minutes last season as a freshman. He comes in as a sophomore. But yeah, this is a team that, I'm going to end up a little bit higher on than just kind of the other programs that I think are a little stuck in muck in the WCC. I'm going to choose to believe that Dave Smart's able to turn this thing into a somewhat respectable program. I still think they probably have a losing record in the WCC. I still think they're a bottom half team, but I'm going to be a little bit relatively higher than some on Pacific just because they give me a little bit more reason to be excited than some of the other teams in this conference. Mac, is that kind of how you're feeling here?
Yeah, and shout out to Hasty. He says that they're a top 4 team in the WCC.
Oh, he's drinking the Kool-Aid.
I don't know if I go that far, but I do buy into the coach. I think they're going to play hard. I think he's going to maximize it. I would say that their ceiling would probably be 7th or 8th.
That's where I have them 7th.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them overachieving.
All right,
but I think it will. I think it'll take a year. I think it'll take a year to get the culture in place.
I don't know. Like we've seen, 100%. I could definitely see that where you're right here, but you just got to pick and choose with some of these. Like I like how he's grabbing some guys that nobody else is going for coming in from Canada. He's also reuniting a Texas Tech backcourt, like Hasty said in the YouTube chat. Like I like some of the chemistry pieces already here that they're gonna have. So but you just gotta pick and choose with these portal rosters, which one you're gonna back, which ones you're gonna fade. This is one of the ones that I'm gonna choose to be a little bit, higher on, maybe establish an edge early here.
I like it. We're buying into the Tigers.
All right.
Night.
Something else that we would encourage everybody to buy into is SGPN's proud partner Rhythm, the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on moneyline spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model or copy one of the top performing ones from the leaderboard, and Rhythm will give you predictions for every game and player prop. It also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And the college basketball experience is also brought to you by BetUS. They've been around for more than 30 years, and you can easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts when you're looking to cash out. BetUS is live with their Trick or Treat on Horror Street. Their promotion right now goes until Halloween, where you're going to get daily promotions and plus a raffle entry to win a sports or casino prize pack that they're going to give away on October 31st. You can enter multiple times by depositing $200. Every $200 deposit gets you one extra entry. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. Promo code SGPN so they know we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook. And we're home free here today on the college basketball experience. Sorry about my fucking coughing fits here on YouTube.
I was saying you were doing better, and then you hit the wall there.
No, I'm still not feeling tremendous today, but a little bit better. I actually had to I woke up feeling better, but I had to cut the grass, which of course is going to just stir up shit. So that just kind of pissed the day down the drain as well. It was a sacrifice that needed to be made because they're going to come collect the yard waste tomorrow in my neighborhood, so it had to get done. But we're gonna jump over to the Pepperdine Waves, the next team for us in the WCC preview for the 2024-25 season. Pepperdine last season was 13-20, 5-11 in conference, tied for 6th in the WCC. Again, technically second to last here. Mac, I'm not too high on what Ed Schilling has done previously in his head coaching career. I don't think that this roster necessarily blows me away. I think it's going to be like potentially disaster year one for Pepperdine. Are you kind of in the same boat with my thinking?
Yeah, you're just killing the Waves. Yeah, I'm not. I wasn't the biggest fan of this hire. Schilling coming over from Grand Canyon. He struggled as a head coach once upon a time at Wright State, but that was 20 years ago. I will say that. Now he's been at Indiana and UCLA with Alford. So he's been with Drew. He's been with Alford. It'll be interesting to see how he goes about how he wants to play, his style of play, and if he's a heavy portal team or what. But, yeah, they're definitely in the bottom tier for me in 24-25.
Yeah, that's where I kind of land as well. Let's give them their due and run through the roster real quick. Again, another very, very large portal roster. They have two returners, Boubacar Koulibaly, who played 22 minutes last season, 8.5 points, 5.5 boards, shot at 59.5% from the field. And then John Squire, who barely played last season, a 6'8 sophomore. Coming in from Pacific is Mo Odom. He had 4.5 assists per game last season, 28 minutes, 8.5 points, 2.5 boards. Again, Pacific was god awful last year, and this kid's going to come in after being like their ball dominant player, come in and be one of Pepperdine's best players. Yikes. Aaron Clark comes in from Wake Forest. He almost never saw the floor with the Demon Deacons. He's a 6'6 wing. Javon Cooley comes in a 6'5 graduate senior wing from Marist. 25 minutes per game, 7.5 points, 4 boards, shot at 54% from the field, 47.5% from three in limited attempts. Stefan Todorovic comes in from San Francisco in conference. He's a 6'8 senior. Also didn't see the floor too much. But I like the size on the wings. That's the one positive I can give to this roster, but I think they're going to be pretty weak on the glass. Again, like I mentioned, you're grabbing the point guard from the worst team in the conference that didn't win a single game. That's a little bit of question mark for me. Alonzo Foyor comes in from Loyola Marymount, Maryland. He's a 6'10 grad senior. And then Zion Bethea transfers in from Delaware, the 6'4 redshirt junior, played 14.5 minutes for the Blue Hens last season. Just not a very sexy roster. I'll say that, Matt.
No, not a sexy roster. Frank says they're getting a new arena. So yes, it is. They are upgrading around Pepperdine, but I think this transition.
If you can't sell one of the best campuses in the country, come on.
Oh, it's beautiful out there, no doubt. But yeah, that doesn't translate to wins always. So yeah, down year for them in Schilling's first year. Show me. I can't just blindly buy in.
Yeah, I'm right there. Same boat. Next up for us is the Portland Pilots. If Colby had his soundboard right now, he'd be playing I Want That Pilot. Last year, 12-21, 5-11 in conference. And again, one of these teams that were tied for 6th in the West Coast Conference. Mac, Portland is going to be the youngest, most inexperienced roster in the WCC, as basically everybody left Portland after last season. The backcourt might be all right, but outside of that, there's not much else for the Pilots this season. Let's talk about that backcourt, because that's a pretty good positive, and that's a reason why I don't have them finishing last. They bring in Max McKinnon, who didn't play point guard last season for Elon, but he was a 6'6 wing. Portland, Shante Liggins is gonna kind of have him take the reins as a point guard this season. So you're going to have a really big point guard, played 27 minutes last season for the Phoenix, 12 points per game, 5 boards, 2.5 assists, shot at 36.5% from three, 45% from the field. And then you have Vukasin Masic, who's a 6'5 redshirt senior, played 32.5 minutes, 12.5 points, 4 boards, 3 assists, shot at 40.5% from three-point range. And then Chris Austin, a 6'4 grad senior, who played 25.5 minutes, 7 points per game, shot at 36.5% from three. Those three, I think, are, good, like solid pieces. After that, there's absolutely no depth. So many freshmen on this roster. There's 6 of them. One of them redshirt freshmen, but just outside of those 3, they just lack guys that have played D1 minutes. It's honestly crazy. They bring in a 7-footer, 7'1" Jermaine Balasager, hell of a last name, Balasager Webb.
All Sager Webb.
he comes in from American. I mean, that's a real American right there. Yeah, he's a junior, 7'1", 13 minutes a game last season. And paired up in the front court with Bull Denget, just an absolute all-name team front court here from Portland and the WCC. But yeah, this team I have 10th because there's nothing behind that top 3. I can't put any faith in this roster, Mac. How about you?
I have them right there at the bottom too, and ironically, Shante Legans, the head man there, he was the one that got EW going before handing it off to Riley. So reunited in the WCC. Been a mediocre run so far at Portland. I know that's one of the harder jobs in this league. They've hovered around that 6 to 8 mark, so maybe the ceiling would probably be back there with these younger guys, but it's a lot of inexperience that haven't played college basketball yet. I like the guards, so maybe they're a little bit better than we expect, but definitely at the bottom 3-4 teams in this league.
Yeah, honestly, if they're going to be better than they expect, it's like 1 or 2 freshmen break out that I'm just not even really considering, Max. So I could see the case, but I'm not going to predict it. Let's talk about the St. Mary's Gaels. I mean, great season last year, 26-8 overall. They struggled a little bit early in non-conference, but 15-1 in they finished first atop the standings. According to Bart Torvik, St. Mary's is one of the more inexperienced rosters in the WCC this preseason, but this program develops their talent from within. And Randy Bennett, who's honestly been better on the recruiting trail lately. So these St. Mary's teams, there's been less dips lately in program history. The Gaels lose 3 starters from last season. Aidan Mahaney transferred to UConn after 14 points per game, 2.5 assists, 35.5% from 3-point range, which was honestly a little bit of a down year compared to his freshman campaign. Joshua Jefferson transfers out to Iowa State after an up and down year that led to 10 points per game, 6.5 boards. And then a big hit was Alex Ducas, who he averaged 10, 6.5, and 2.5, 1 steal per game, shot at nearly 44% from 3. He's unfortunately out of eligibility. He was just money from deep, had unlimited range, honestly. Coming back for SMC is last season's conference player of the year, Augustas Marciulionis, who did a little bit of everything for the first place finishing team last season. 12.5 points, over 3 boards per game, over 5 assists per game, over a steal per game. Shot at 44.5% from the field, 34.5% from 3. The Gaels are going to need Marciulionis to step up into more of a ball-dominant scoring role, in my opinion, this season to truly kind of compete with Gonzaga for this conference once again. Mitchell Saxen, also a 6'10" big, returns for a 5th year after playing. It's his 5th year. He played 28 minutes last season, 12 points per game, 7.5 boards, 1.5 assists. And he was pretty efficient last year too, 54.5% from the field. Outside of those 2, this is another team that I think they need a breakout or 2 to be competitively nationally, big picture wise. But what were you going to say?
I didn't say anything.
Sorry. They need a breakout, 1 or 2 of them, to compete on the big picture nationally. But, you look at some sophomores in Jordan Ross or the Arizona transfer, Polius Moraskis, or could the 7'1" Harry Wessels be playable alongside Saxen for 20+ minutes a game? Which of these freshman guards could burst onto the scene? Mikey Lewis, Liam Campbell, Joshua Dent. Mac, what are your thoughts on Randy Bennett's team heading into the season overall?
I think that they're obviously not going to be as good. I think they're probably going to be a bubble team, to be honest. But you just trust in Bennett. Bennett has been a true model of consistency there, 533 and 216. He wins over 70%. I think that maybe they're kind of hovering around 22 to 25 wins. I think that they get better and better throughout the year, maybe a little bit like Gonzaga last year, but not to that extent because their roster isn't as good. But I mean,
not as old either. Last year was kind of old. Last year, Gonzaga was pretty experienced.
And Marciulionis, they need him to be the horse, and then Saxen's an experienced guy. They'll probably play even slower now and just try and grind out games. I still have them second, though, in this league, just off of principle.
Yeah, and Clark mentions a good point here. Like, to your point, they'll look a little bit like Gonzaga. Yeah, I mean, they lose Aidan Mahaney, who's kind of their shot creator last year. We haven't really seen Marciulionis do that, like, in his role. He can do a little bit of everything, but never been the go-to guy offensively for him during his career. You know, Randy Bennett has aided St. Mary's to a top 15 defense nationally in each of the last 4 seasons. That's kind of what allows me to just kind of come to terms with, yeah, maybe St. Mary's isn't the sexy pick night in and night out like they were last year in the non-conference. But they're still going to have a really high floor. So I don't have anybody. I'm not being bold and predicting anybody to finish second in this conference above them. I kind of come to accept and expect what I get from the Gaels every single night, and that's what I think we're going to get this season too. Any other thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, this year they'll definitely embrace their identity of really guarding in order to win games.
Yeah, 100%. The San Diego Toreros are next up for us, as I've picked up an accent all of a sudden. But yeah, Lavin. So Steve Lavin enters year 3. Last year they were 18-15 overall, 7-9 in conference, which is 5th in the WCC. His Toreros lose 3 starters from last year's squad. Deuce Turner, 15.5 points per game, 2 assists. Wayne McKinney, 13.5 points per game, 3.5 boards, 3 assists. And sophomore PJ Hayes, 10.5 points per game. They also lose 2 other sophomores, and Jimmy Olodokun Jr. and Kevin Patton Jr. And I mean, shit, like all 3 of those guys, those 3 sophomores had good roles last season. That just completely stunts the growth of the program, Mac. Year 1, I didn't think that Lavin did a tremendous coaching job. I think the expectations were a little bit higher. Year 2, I thought he overachieved with a really young team. Year 3 was going to look pretty promising until he lost, 4 guys that played 25 minutes to the transfer portal. So that's the negative side of mid-major college basketball at its finest. Mac, do you have any other thoughts on just Lavin's coaching job entering year 3?
They definitely took a big step last year, 11 wins to 18, but they lost a shitload of their production. So Lavin's going to have to work some magic here, I think, again. I think their ceiling probably is the middle of the pack, just with all that they lost and the new additions. But Lavin's got a track record of always finding a way to just stay in the middle of the pack. So maybe he pulls out another one here and they finish around that 5th, 6th, or 7th range.
Yeah, and I mean, he didn't really go out and attempt to replace through the portal. A lot of, trust in his development in the program, and also going out and getting 5 freshmen. So we'll see how that works. KJ Bradley is one of the big portal gets for them, though, from San Diego City Community College. Played, he put up 17 points per game, 3.5 boards, 5.5 assists. He's a 6'1" junior point guard, inner city. Just taking a step up in competition. We'll see how that goes. And then also Cody Clouette comes in from D2 Southeast Oklahoma State. It was a really good program. 6'7" grad senior wing, 35.5 minutes per game, 17.5 points per game, 5 boards, 2 assists, 1.5 steals. Shot at 50.5% from the field, 43% from 3. Honestly, like the wings are Is my Wi-Fi dragging?
Yeah, it just started going in and out, but you're back now. Can you hear me?
I don't know if I'm fully back.
I think you're
I
back
can hear
now.
you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but
Can you see me?
Lavin,
All right.
I don't know. I think
Go
that
ahead.
this team is definitely going to be in the bottom half. I just with the amount of production that they lost, and I know they overachieved last year, finished 5th, but anytime you're only bringing back 40% of your production from a mediocre team, I think that that's kind of hard to anticipate that you'll bounce back up to the same exact spot.
Yeah, I have San Diego as a bottom half team. I think that the size on this team is really nice, and they also have some experience depth. Yeah, you look and you see 5 guys on the bench that played at least a little bit last season to go along with the projected starting 5. 2 of those guys coming in and taking a step up in competition, obviously, but both of them pretty damn good players from where they came in from. And I'm willing to give Lavin a little bit of a nudge up from the basement. I don't have them 10th or 11th. I have them 9th here in the preseason. So that's where I kind of landed for the Toreros. San Francisco, the Dons are next for us in the WCC conference preview this season. Last year they were 23-11, 11-5 in the league, which was good for third. San Francisco returns 55% of their minutes from last year, but will have to replace one of their star forwards in Jonathan Mobo, who averaged a double-double last season. Mike Sharaviamps, also played 25 minutes per game last season and hit the transfer portal. But like I prefaced, the Dons return 4 guys who played 22-plus minutes from last season. Marcus Williams is going to run the show. 14 points per game, 4 assists, 3.5 boards, over a steal per game, 34.5% from 3, 45.5% from the field with really good volume, so he's a great floor general, can shoot it well for Chris Gerlifson's Dons. And surrounding Williams is 3 experienced returnees who can shoot the lights out. Malik Thomas, 12.5 points per game last season, 40% from 3. Duito Newberry, definitely screwed up that first name, but he shot at 52.5% from the field, 40% from the 3. And 5'11" Ryan Beasley, who shot the 3 ball 35.5% from deep last year. Mac, those 4, just can shoot really, really well. That's kind of San Francisco's identity the last, decade or so. With the whole analytical coaching mindset and attack offensively and defensively. San Francisco, not by like their own doing, I think they're going to be a really solid team this year. I just have them, unfortunately, slipping 1 spot down in the league standings. I think I like Santa Clara's roster a little bit better. We'll talk about the Broncos next, but I think St. Mary's, Santa Clara, San Francisco are tighter this year than they've been, the last 2 years.
Yeah, Jerlusafin, or however you pronounce his name, I always butcher it. I think he's a good coach. He was with Todd Golden. He's won back-to-back 20-win seasons. I know Kyle Smith got this program going a couple years ago. But like you said, they have an identity, high analytics program. They have a good home court. I have them right there with St. Mary's, to be honest. I think that they're number in the 3 hole. I like the production. There's 4 guys coming back. I like the Dons a lot in 24-25 to take a step here.
All right. Like I said, I didn't bump them down because I necessarily hated it. I hated what they have. I think I like 3 other teams a little bit more than them. Coming in from the transfer portal, they're taking a gamble on Jason Rivera Torres, who was formerly like a well-regarded recruit committed to Vanderbilt his freshman year. Last year as a freshman, he's a 6'6" wing. He played 15.5 minutes, 6.5 points, 3 boards. Did not shoot it too well. He's going to take a step down in competition and see what he can offer for the Dons. They also bring in big man from UTSA, Carlton Lingard Jr., 7-footer. He's a graduate senior, played 25.5 minutes last season, 9.5 points, 6 boards, shot at 42% from the field. But he's more there for the rim protection than anything. And they'll rely on the 4 guards to kind of do what they do in this program typically. Issa Silva also transfers in from Long Beach State. He only played 12.5 minutes last season. But, I've liked the San Francisco program for the last couple of years and what they've built this thing on. So I like I said, let's get into the team that I'm a little bit higher on than them this season in Santa Clara. Last year, they finished 20-13 overall, 10-6 in the WCC, which was good for 4th. Santa Clara is a team that I want to be relatively higher on than most people. The Broncos returned the second most minutes in this conference, 6 to 7 guys that played 19 or more minutes for them last season. The only starter that they lost was 6'6" Carlos Marshall Jr., but to replace them, they go out and get Carlos Stewart, who is a boomerang back to Santa Clara in their program via LSU. Stewart was the point guard for the Santa Clara team that was 23-10 overall in 2023, 2022-23 season. They were 11-5 in the WCC. So a lot of these guys are long and switchable defensively. They can all shoot it. They have a 7-footer in Christoph Tilley to protect the rim. Johnny O'Neal is a pretty solid 6'10 forward. 6'9 Jake Ensminger played 19 minutes in his first college season last year. Santa Clara has depth. They can score. They're interchangeable, and I think they're going to be good enough defensively. Mac, I think Santa Clara has a shot to really be an at-large team this season. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid here with the Broncos. I think they're nipping at St. Mary's heels seriously in the WCC standings this season.
Yeah, so I mean, Herb's done a really good job there. He's had NBA guys in his program, so he's made this into a top 4 expectation year in and year out in the WCC. Four out of the last 5 years, 20 plus wins. They have a shitload of experience coming back. 76% of their returning production. They're right there behind Gonzaga in terms of age and experience. I have them in my top 4. I like Santa Clara a lot. I don't know if I have them at large potential, but I'd love to see it. I'd love to see the Bronx get to the dance.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a super balanced team overall in the last 4 years. I mean, offensively and defensively, top 140 in the country, with as high as like a top 70 offense, a top 90 defense. I think you're going to get a little bit of the best of both worlds here this season. I think this is going to be quite possibly the highest ceiling they've had in the last half decade. Honestly, I'll say this. I think it's the highest ceiling Herb Sundek's had in his career at Santa Clara. So there, I said it. And we're going to move on to our beloved Cougs, the Washington State Cougars. Last year, hell of a year, outstanding season. A lot of people projected them to finish in the basement of the Pac-12. cough, cough. Myself, I predicted them like bottom 3 in the Pac-12 last year. Terrific job. But unfortunately, with the step down in conference play, or step down in league affiliation, I should say, just kind of the dispersing of head coach and also some of the players happened. They were 25-10 last season, 14-6 overall in the conference, second in the Pac-12. David Riley is the new head coach. He swings in from Eastern Washington into Pullman, and he's going to bring 4 players with him from EWU. Mac, what are your thoughts on this hire?
I mean, how can you not like this? Riley did a good job, or not a good job. He did a great job at EW. In 3 years, won 62% of his games, 75%. He never could get over the hump in March Madness. They lost back-to-back years as the 1 seed to the 10th seed, unfortunately, but now comes into a new situation, going from EW over to Pullman. I think it's a lot to unpack with this roster and the turnover with Kyle Smith going to Stanford. I would probably look at what he did year 1 at Eastern Washington, where they were around 500. I think it's a little bit of a learning curve. but definitely long term, I think David Riley is a rising star in this industry.
Yeah, so transferring in from Eastern Washington following Riley in the Pullman, Cedric Coward, who played 30.5 minutes last season. He's a 6'6 senior wing, 15.5 points, 6.5 boards, 1.5 assists, shot at 56.5% from the field, 38.5% from three. They also have Ethan Price, a 6'10 forward, who's a senior, who played 26 minutes last season, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 2.5 assists per game, shot at 52% from the field, 37.5% from deep. Lawan Watts, 6'6 redshirt sophomore on the wing, 22.5 minutes last season, 9.5 points, 5 boards, 1.5 assists, shot at 61% from the field, 40.5% from deep, unlimited volume. And then also Dane Erickstrip, a 6'10 senior, 19 minutes per game, 11 points, 3 boards, 1.5 assists, shot at 43.5% from the field, 34% from deep. Those 4 are the Eastern Washington guys. They also bring in a guy from Washington, and Nate Calmise, who is a 6'2 junior guard who played 11 minutes per game last season, 4 points in the limited time per game with the Huskies. Returning from last year's Washington State team, Isaiah Watts, no relation to Lawan, but Isaiah is a 6'3 sophomore guard who only played 10 minutes last season. They bring in a couple of freshmen here, 4 freshmen, a couple of European freshmen, but the one that, Marcus Wilson is a top 200 recruit via On3. So this team is kind of a grab bag of some sorts, and also there's some continuity that you have to like here, coming in from a conference-winning Eastern Washington team last season. So, I'm relatively positive on the Cougs this season. I have them 5th in the WCC. Mac, any other thoughts before we move on from Washington State?
No, it's more just a micro macro. I think they take their lumps a little bit, kind of like they did at EW last year in the non-con. They had some new faces. I like that he brought a couple of his guys over. It's cool to see a story like this where a guy that grew up in Washington, grew up in Seattle, going over to EW as a GA, as an assistant. Then he gets to Pullman with the Cougars. So definitely like the hire long term to continue what Kyle Smith had built there over the last couple of years.
Let's get to it. The West Coast Conference basketball prediction portion of this episode. We're going to go through our rankings. It's a little bit of a power ranking of how good we feel about all these teams in the preseason. Also, a little bit of a prediction in how we think they're going to finish come the end of the year. The West Coast Conference. We're going to go from 11 down to 1. Mac, who do you have at 11? I don't know if it's quite as obvious. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm overlooking this, but 11, who do you have?
I had the Waves of Pepperdine.
Okay, I'm in the same spot. I felt pretty confident with my 11th pick, but I didn't know how strongly you felt about the Waves too. So, great song by Mr. Probs. I believe that's the most recent Waves song. But them at 11. 10, who do you have?
I had the Pilots of Portland in the 10 spot.
I got Portland 10th as well.
Okay. At number 8, I know I like Smart a lot, but I think it's going to be a little bit of a transition.
Number 9.
Number 9, sorry. I had Pacific at number 9.
Okay. I had San Diego 9th.
I had the Toreros at 8. Steve Lavin.
Oregon State 8th.
Oregon State 8. I had Loyola Marymount at 7. It seems to be good slot for them. Stan Johnson.
All right. I went Pacific 7.
That was your overachiever. I got Big Tink in the 6 hole, man. Oregon State's going to sneak up on everybody. They're new group in. They're going to overachieve a little bit in WCC year number 1.
I have Loyola Marymount 6th. And then I think this is like we're both kind of forming. There's an iron 5 at the top 5 of this conference, in my opinion. I would be relatively surprised if these 5 don't finish in the top 5. Go ahead with your 5th place team.
Yeah, I went David Riley and Wazoo. I mentioned it the first year at Eastern Washington, around that 500 mark. I think they're similar here at Wazoo, being able to play bye games rather than being the one playing the bye games on the road. So Wazoo at 5 for me.
I got the Cougs 5 too. 4.
At 4, this is where I had your Bronx. I had Santa Clara. I think though that they're gonna. And these next 2 teams I have solidly in the NIT. Maybe they could push for an at-large if they take care of business in the non-con. So Santa Clara.
Yeah, those NIT rules did change. So I believe it was like top 100 teams in auto big leagues. I can't remember what the actual guidelines were for it, but I have the Dons 4th, San Francisco 4. Who do you have 3?
I had the Dons at 3. I like the Dons roster and returning production, and I like Jerusalem. I keep butchering his name. But yeah, San Fran, baby.
Gerlofson, I think. That's my
Is it
pronunciation for it.
Jerusalem?
I don't know.
There's not like a pronunciation on the page I'm on right now. So I know he can coach. Yeah. I was looking everywhere because I'm like, how do you pronounce this last name? Gerlofson.
Yeah, I have Santa Clara 3, and I will say this: like, I couldn't move St. Mary's out of that 2 spot because of the respect of the program that we should have. But they're closer to 2nd than they are to 4th, in my opinion. Here in the WCC, I have St. Mary's 2. Who do you have 2nd?
Same logic.
Okay.
I'm not moving the Gaels out of 2 hole. Randy Bennett, he'll find a way. They'll scratch claw, guard their asses off. 2 spot, and then don't get cute. The Zags are going to be vintage Gonzaga. They'll be a top 10 team all year long. Maybe, dude, they may be a 1 seed again. This might be that old school Gonzaga.
I mean, shit. If you have 4 losses at the end of the year, you'll probably be a 1 seed. That's kind of how I see the potential for it. Like, if you rank them 2nd, and then at the end of the year they're a 1 seed, you can take a victory lap for it. Sure, go ahead. But I don't know if that's necessarily how I am doing my rankings.
No. I'm talking like for them to be a 1 seed though in March, they got to take care of business in the non-con. They got to win the games like Baylor.
They schedule tough.
Yeah, they got to have a strong showing in Atlanta. So they at least got to go 2-1. They got to beat Kentucky when they come back. They got to be competitive with UConn, UCLA. So they will have earned the 1 seed but if they run the table in conference or lose 1 and then just lose 3 in the non-con, they should be around a 1 or 2.
I think their best case scenario is 27-4, and they probably get a 1 seed if that happens. But I don't know if I'm necessarily there on that prediction. But I think the floor is probably 7 or 8 wins. Like I think they're a very, very, very good team.
7 or 8 losses.
7, 8 losses.
I was like, wins. What?
Great catch. 7 or 8 losses.
I was like, oh, we're gonna clip that shit when they're fucking 8-1, and you're gonna be like, oops.
There was a nice pause there too for people to be able to clip it. So that's trouble. But
yeah.
That's gonna wrap up. Actually, sorry, it's not gonna wrap up. Sleeper bust prediction. So the WCC media poll went as follows: Gonzaga 1, St. Mary's 2, Santa Clara 3, San Francisco 4, Washington State 5, LMU 6, Oregon State 7, Portland 8, San Diego 9, Pacific 10, 11 Pepperdine. My sleeper is Pacific. I have them picked 7th. They were picked 10th in the media poll. Mac, where are you going to go for sleeper?
I was chalk as hell. I literally was 1 spot off on every team or right on.
Who do you feel more bullish on?
I'll go Pacific with you just because of Smart's track record of winning. I could see them jumping San Diego and Loyola Marymount and getting up to 7. It wouldn't shock me.
Do you want to go off of last year's standings for yourself?
Sure. Pacific.
Sure. Yeah, Pacific was last. No, you ain't getting that then.
If I'm looking at who do I think who would have the highest ceiling, I mean, I can't see Santa Clara or San Fran winning the league. I don't even see them dethroning St. Mary's from the 2 seed. Maybe Oregon State gets 5th. Nah. Pacific.
All right. For bust, I have Portland 10th. They were picked 8th. So a little bit more chalky on the negative side, but 2 spots below where they were picked, Portland. They're really, really young this year.
Did you say Marymount was 5th?
6th. LMU 6th.
Yeah, Portland 10th for me as well.
All righty. So that's officially going to wrap up the West Coast Conference college basketball preview for the 2024-25 season. If you're looking to follow Ryan McIntyre on Twitter, you can follow him at moneyline_Mac. If you're looking to follow myself, Noah Bieniek, on Twitter, you can follow me at NoahB77_ on X or Twitter. You can follow the show on the same platform and other platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, TCE SGPN or TCE on SGPN. Sorry. On YouTube here, the College Experience -SGPN. Leave a like, rating, review, subscribe wherever you listen to this, whether it be podcast platforms or YouTube. We're trying to get the 12K subs before opening night tip. Opening night tip's going to be a gigantic party. There's going to be a lot of people here watching live. It's a great following. The chat's lively, and we like to include you guys in our shows. So it's great stuff. Thank you all for tuning in to this episode. This has been the College Basketball Experience. You better start thinking about yours, and we out of here.